All right, so we had members already in the call. So I'm now sharing my screen. And when you start seeing my screen, you let me know that the screen is now visible. Somebody can confirm that.
Can see it.
Right. So thank you so much, everybody, for who are joining in now. I see similar attendees. Dennis Kaduri, one organizer. We have Ganda, Molo, Rehan, Bernard. Kerry there is just here to take notes. Daisy, welcome to the call. Victor and Elisha. So as the rest will be joining the call, they'll be able to get all the updates of what we shall be sharing on this call. So first of all, I will start with my introduction, also introduce my co-organizers of the event. This is C-Sharp series. I think this is the 6th event that we are having each and every Wednesday from 8 to 9:30 p.m. And the series is purpose to prepare ourselves for .NET Conf that will start in November 11th and 12th. And we have something in store for you. Like we have an event for you. We have like 3 events planned for .NET Conf. And for attendees, thank you so much for always being there for these sessions. And yeah, my name is Brian Kimboy. I'm a software engineering student in Kirinyaga University, now on my 4th year. And I love coding and sharing things to the community for us to learn. Let me invite Dennis also for the introduction.
Thank you, Brian. I was hoping you add something when you said you love coding and you know everything. Food is everything. So I was just waiting for that. Then you said
Okay,
food.
it's because I've always been introducing myself, and for the members who are always in, they've known most of the things that I do. So if I tried to make it a summary that I love coding and impacting other people. Yeah, and so several other titles also. So welcome, Dennis.
Okay. Thank you, Brian. Yeah, I am excited to be part of this community. My name is Washira Kaduri. I'm also a 4th year at Kirinyaga University, doing computer science, and also one of the committee members of the CSK and a good Microsoft Run student ambassador. Yes, I'm a software developer. Yeah, I love coding and also maybe swimming and a bit of qualified chef. So that's my bio, and hoping to get an interactive session as we go on to learn something on C# and its ecosystem. Thank you once again and welcome everyone.
Okay, thank you so much, Dennis. Let me welcome Molo of Uganda.
Okay, so hi guys. My name is Omolo Cliff Oganda. I've heard my colleagues saying reading their bio. Let me read my bio briefly. So I'm a student at JQuat, Beta Milestone. I love copy pasting from Google and ChatGPT to build solutions. And also, I love this C# session. Actually, it has boosted me a lot. I learn and also I present. Yeah, so I'm in JQuat, Beta Milestone, and I'm the next Gold Ambassador in JQuat. So thank you guys, and I hope you enjoy this session.
Yes, thank you so much, Molo, for introduction, and also Dennis Kaburi. So I think right on that, we are going to start the session. So today we are learning LINQ in C#. So this might be something new to most of us, especially if you're coming from another programming language. It's something that we've never, maybe you've never heard about it, but if you've done something on C#, you've come across this LINQ. And I've been able to share from our WhatsApp group about LINQ that it's a tool that helps you to query from different stores of data. So, and I've also shared this link. So it's good for you when you'll be reading more LINQ. Then after the session, this C# documentation, by the way, it has everything about C#. So when you talk about LINQ, that's in full language integrated query. So you get the overview, you'll be introduced the queries, and even a tutorial. This tutorial is very important because it's one thing that is packed with these learning resources that will help you to get started. Yeah, so that's just for a start. So for anyone who is, okay, I shared also on WhatsApp, let me just also place it on this. The chat on Teams. So just give me a second, let me do that. All right, so I'm now going back to my slides. So from my slides, you can see like what LINQ is that it always stands in between your C# application and the data source itself. So C# is object oriented, and all what we write in C# is objects. Whether you're writing a class, declaring a variable, all those manipulations that you do on C# is always in object format. And last week, Dennis Kaduri was the one taking us through object-oriented programming in C#. We saw how you can be able to reuse code, and it is the industry standard of most development of different applications. Okay, as you write these objects, you always want to make sure that when you want to query a data source from, let's say, for instance, a database, or even if you have an array of values, but you want to map them through to manipulate those data, you always use this, can I call it a tool? Let me see from the documentation, what is it referred to us? I don't want to call it a name that is not in the documentation. I always call it a tool. Okay, let me see how they explain it to be. Okay, this is a tutorial. Yeah, it's a tool for querying. I've seen, I think I can still remember from where I got the resource, but okay, the documentation doesn't state it. But it's a tool that will help you to query data, especially if it's from a data source. It's like just an SQL statement, by the way. So let me just go back. I don't know why today I'm fumbling with my slides. Okay. So going to the second slide, okay, somebody is asking, okay, what's LINQ? So it's a syntax in C#. So I think this is the correct term. So syntax in C# to query various data sources, especially if it is collections, XMLs, databases. You'll always find this on C#. So moving on to the next is the syntaxes to write LINQ. So there's two ways you can be able to write LINQ. You can write it using the query syntax. So the query syntax always resembles the SQL-like syntax. So, and we shall be trying out and see how do you write such statements. So also we have, okay, we use things like those keywords like from, where, and select. So if you've been able to learn such, you'll always find this statement. So we have the second one known as the method syntax. So this one uses lambda expressions, and I think this is the first time when we shall be talking about lambda. So we'll speak more about this as we see in code. So to our next slide, Okay, hoping that the screen is visible to everybody, even those who are joining from an outside organization. Alicia, you can confirm. I think it's cool. Okay, yeah, this is thumbs up saying it's okay. So, so this is an illustration of like how this link or how link appears to be. For instance, you have a data source must exist in the first place. So without the data source, link won't be able to query anything. And then the second thing for it to take place, you have the query. So you have to write the query, and then the execution will then take place. And the execution will always loop through each and every time until you are able to complete all those rows in that, depending on the query you made. If you said you want to query only 5 items, then it will only query the 5 items and then it will end. So it iterates through. We've talked about iterations using for loops and other techniques. So that is what we refer to as. Okay. Next, we are going to go for the demo, and then that's it. So today can be the shortest event or ever, but it's something very important to note. So let me go to my VS Code. Okay, let me get to the actual folder. So most of the source code that you always write is always available in our GitHub. It's also available in my GitHub account, and it's always shared on the WhatsApp group. Let me now get to see where we shall be able to write the code today. Okay, today we have less number of members joining in. Yeah, if you know a friend maybe who never knew about the session, you can let them know about it. So writing a C# code. So this was one of collections. Let me just create another solution of it. So to write it, first of all, you open the command palette. So let me just also close this because this also belongs to another program. So to open the command palette, it's Control, Shift, and then P. It opens the command palette. So I know you can also create the console application of .NET using the terminal. I always find using this UI very easy for me. So the first thing is .NET new project. Okay, where is my command palette? Okay, it's here. Let's wait. Okay. Then my command palette is just misbehaving, so you can say new project. Okay, should be .NET. How comes today it doesn't even realize my past selections? I might opt for the terminal if it goes on this way, .NET. Okay, let me just install from the terminal. So let me list the files to see where I am. So I'm in collections, the series folder, nice. So just clear. So the next thing is .NET new console. So the new console will have a name. So let's call it link. However, I wanted to create it as a folder. Let me just first of all place it in a folder, then we create it that way. So this is the solution explorer, so that we can have multiple solutions in it. So I just create a folder, name it link. Then inside link, then I'll be able to create solutions. Let me do so. So can just create a new project by default, then it can just open the command palette. I think this way will be better. So this is the console app. So I'll name the first thing that we shall do. It shall be filtering using link. So I just name it filter, then link. Then enter, and then create the new project. Right, so I've been able to create a new project, and you always operate using the solution explorer. So let's see, the code that always gives us is the top level statements. So nowadays you can be able to write C# code just this way. So let's see more. So I want to write a link query, but using the filter statement, so that I can be able to filter several properties, or to filter some data stored in a list. So today we won't be working with a database, but I will create a list that we shall be able to query it. So it starts by, let me create a class. So class known as a student. So the class student will have properties. So I think these are the properties I want to be there, that the student will have a name and an age. So let me, we always get this is not an error, but it's a suggestion that you get from C#. It tells you this property is nullable. So whenever you'll be running your code, you always get some suggestions, but you can either set it to be null by default, or in this case, you can just say it is required that everybody gives their name. So with that, you don't get that suggestions, or because somehow it's an error, but it's not an error that can stop your code from working. So the next thing that follows is now the class program. So I want to be able to write the top level statements, because now I'm having classes inside another class. So I'm going to say program over here. So, and I would like now to write some source code of my program to query using the filter available from link. So first of all, so it's static void main. So I'm going back to writing C#, the old way method. So the first thing is to give a list of students. So I'll start by the keyword list. So list is a collection that we talked about. Whenever around it says represents a strongly typed object that can be accessed by index. So we've talked about list in our previous sessions, and for anyone who missed those sessions, they can be able to go back to those sessions and be able to rewatch the videos. You'll be able to understand like what it means when you say a collection. So now we want to create a collection of students. You heard it is a strongly typed. So it means you have to give it a type. So the type of this list that you are creating is a list of type students. Let me just increase my font. I think that's okay. So it's a list of students. I'll just name a variable for that as students to be equals to now a new list. So a new list of students. So by that, we've been able to create a list, and now we can have our students in here. All right. So let me accept this, because I'm creating just a list of different students, like the first student's name, John, and its age. So this is just a random data that it will help us it will guide us or help us. So the next thing that follows is now writing the query itself that will help to filter these results. So just below here, but ensure that you're within the main method, because this is the execution part of this program here. So just below here, you are supposed to write the query syntax. So, okay, I talked about the query syntax and we have the method syntax. So first of all, we'll try and see how does the query syntax looks like. Okay, the query syntax, just like the copilot is saying, so I'm using the var keyword, and from our previous session, we took a look and knew like what does var mean in a programming language setup. So you can say now var helps you to infer types. Like for instance, you don't have to tell C# that certain thing is an integer, because by default it might infer, but there are some cases whereby you are supposed to tell C# that this a specific type of like you have to tell it explicitly, like this is the type. So I'll say var, I'll say now here sorted. Okay, so I can say, okay, by this I'll be able to sort. I want to the one that I'll be able to filter. Okay, let me check on the code that I'll be able to filter. Okay, so if I'm supposed to filter using LINQ, then I just go direct to, then I used the wrong statement. I wanted to filter something maybe that's, okay, let's just sort it and then we shall go to the next program that will help us know how to filter this. So let's use this to first sort it and then later on we shall try and filter. So queries, the query will help us, so let's say var sorted students. So this, like now you have to write those SQL statements. So the way C# is telling me is actually the copilot is telling me that from students in students. So let me accept it because of time. So I can say from, so this is like just a normal SQL statement that we always write. So like I say now from students in students. So it's going to go to this list that we've defined over here. And this list has several values. It has 4 records. So and you can imagine that this is your database that has up to let's say thousands of records. So just like those statements where you will say select this from this, I say from students. So from student in students. So it is one row at a go. So it's like picking it's picking this John at this point. And then in students, this is the students that has the list. So the list of this type of student that we've mentioned over here. So what happens next? You say where students age is, let's say less than, is greater than 20. So at this point, we only have one person whose age is less than 20. So we don't expect to see John at this point. What the next thing says, so you see selected. So if you look at how this syntax looks like, it's different from what you always see from the SQL statement. We could say that select student in students where age is equals to 20. So it's just inverted that. So after that, you just proceed to log out the statements. So another thing that you can do is just say this is a sorted value. Let me just paste it here. So I'll use console, say console.writeLine, students sorted by age. So then write the query here. So you have now to look. So we looked that the list is something that is enumerable, that you can always look through each and every time. So at this time I can say for, so for what now I can say for var student in sorted students. Now I want to look through and say console.writeLine. So I'm using this new way of formatting in C#. you always start with the ampersand and then give the rest of the statements in those quotes. So this is the new way of writing or writing strings. So if I was to print out using the old method, then I would be concatenating with the plus student.name plus, and that could be hectic for me. So C# is getting much better each and every time. So okay, so this will just loop through this entire list and then print out on the console. So let's see how can you be able to write the same with the method syntax, because the first syntax we've seen is the query syntax using the SQL-like syntax, but there is the one that use the lambda expressions. So by this, I always prefer this, but if you come from a world of if you come from the world of writing SQLs, you always prefer this. But if you want to learn other methods, then it's good. So I can say sorted students method at this point. So I can say it's equal to, now it's like now you're starting also to query it. So you say the students, and students, I'm referring to this student at the top here. I hope you're not confused because I've written a lot of students. So it implies the students in the list. So I can say now students dot, you see C# when you have that extension, the C# toolkit, it always tells you, or it always gives you those code that it's necessary for you to use. So for now, it says where statement, and it gives you an explanation that it filters a sequence of values based on a predicate. So I can say where, then give now the lambda expressions. So you can always use any value, but it's always preferred to use the words that can be understood by another programmer that can be able to maintain. So you can say s is equals to s.age. So I can say now student here dot. So you see now it gets all the data about that student. So I can say student dot equals to, but I can say student dot name or student dot age. But now we were looking at age and then say where student dot age is greater than 20 in this case. So by this, you can see how the method syntax is very easy. So the next thing that has remained is to just use the for each loop and then be able to do that. So it's the same thing. So I'm just going to also copy the code for that. So it's also the same code, like the one that we've written at the top. Then we can be able to run the code and then see what happens. So here, after the code that we've written, so I've just written, this is just a console that will be printed in our code, or so that it can be able to help us that we are now executing this statement. So also like these other ones. So it doesn't help in any part of LINQ, but it helps us to be able to manage and see where the code starts. So I'm going to open my terminal. And in this case, at this point, I have to get into the project. So it's good for you that because now we are dealing, so this should be sorting, not filtering. So I should get into that by opening the integrated terminal like that. So if I list the files, you see I'm inside the program itself. So what next is .NET run. So you can write .NET run, or you can control F5, that will run without building, or you have only function 5 alone, it will build fast. So now you can see from the code that the first one is students sorted by age using the query syntax. So you see it prints the same values, and it's the same thing when you use the method syntax over here. So we've seen sorting. Now I don't know how let me just go also to now filtering. So this was sorting. Let's talk about filtering. Sorry for that confusion. So for that, I'll just also create a new project inside the folder of LINQ over here. So it's always good to manage your source code while writing C#. So now this would be filter. Let me just call it filter again. But filter, let me just call it filter and then enter. But isn't the default and then create the project. So I'm going to close this. So and you can see here we have a new project. Once a project is created, it's always an empty project. So now talking about to filter. So let's say you have a list of numbers and you want to iterate through those numbers. So what should you do to iterate those numbers? So let me first of all remove the entire code over here. So this time around, I'll just write the class program and then proceed with it. Always like this curly brackets when it's down here. So I can see here static void main over there. So also I want another list. So a list of, now at this point I want to, instead of using students again, I want to use numbers. So I would say I want numbers is a data type of int. This time around, because you've said that list is strongly typed, you have to specify the data type. So I'll say int. Now this is numbers is equals to what? The new list of int. So I can initialize it with values of, let's say, 1 to 10. Sometimes you might be having values of more than that. So and LINQ will never fail because it is the mediator between the two. It will always query depending on those instructions that you give it. Okay, so just below it, I'm also going to do whatever I did with the last. So shall do the query syntax and this will be fast. But now this time around, check on this. So so it's the same thing, but now I'm trying to just filter by something. So whereby, let's say that number, if you divide it by 2, you always get a 0 because I've used the modulus sign. So that is actually what we are doing with it. So the next thing is to just write the for each loop and then loop through it. So I'm going to use Copilot to write that as quick as possible. So the for each loop, what does it do? It just also instantiates another variable number in even numbers. Even numbers is this new query syntax that we formed. And then we're saying that for each number in numbers, just console.log the number. So let's do the same for the method syntax. How do you do this, especially if you have the lambda expression? So for the lambda expression, let me see if it's okay. I think that is when numbers. Yeah, this is okay. Say even numbers method. So this is just a variable that you can name whatever you need. So the numbers is referring to these numbers in the list, where number is equivalent to a number that's when it's divided by 2, it's equals to 0. So it's always easy for you to use the method, the one that has the lambda expressions, but whichever you choose, it always gives you the results and it doesn't hinder any performance at all. So let me print out this. So for each, each number in that method, so just console.log that and leave us on the console. Let's check that. So I'm going to make sure that I'm in the program, so I'm in the filter. So what happened next is to run the query. So I'll say .NET run. Okay, we can see that now the query syntax and the method syntax also gives us the same results. All right, so we are going also to look at our last way of how you can query using the order by, because sometimes you might want to do the same thing, but now doing it with order by. So first of all, I'm just also going to go with the student's example, but for this also create another solution. So I'm doing this so that if whenever you're on GitHub, you can always find these resources. So I'll be sharing with you how things are organized with GitHub so that whenever you want some code, you just get it at a go. So I'm creating a project, it's a console app. And here I'm naming it the, what did I say we do is the order by. Default directory and create it, and we should have it here. It's here. Can open that. Let's see what it has. So I want to have the student with me here. So the same student that we are using is the same student that I want us to use, so that you can see how you can use order by and get the results. So it's almost similar as what we've been doing. So it's program, then static void main. Okay. So you can see also the list of students. So it's also the same thing. Let me just give the code instead of typing it over and over again. So I'm not giving a list of those students like how we had given before. And when initializing the class, giving the values of each and every student and the age. So the query syntax should apply here. So this is the this is the query. So the query syntax. So for this, you can say var which I mean, so from var, let me say this, var query students in student. I think we've done this. Sorry, you're supposed to project the select statement. I'm already like, why am I using the same thing? Okay, so let's do it when we are doing the projections of the students. So projection will always like just select everything and then give you all of them at a go without like saying that I want to query specific thing, but I can say I want to project only by getting the specific name. So I can say var, let's say the student query. It's now is equals to from students in students, can say select. So this is without using the other term. So select student dot, so dot name. So this one we want to project like listing the entire thing without sorting them. So if you want to just print them, so just say console dot write line the query syntax and then give the for each loop and it will do its work. So the other one we'll look at is the the method syntax. So you'll say that var student method, then just the same way we've done from the other statements. So these things are very similar. It's just that I'm trying to give different examples of how we could use it. Then the other part is console and then print out using the for each loop. So let me just verify that this code is correct. So student in students, okay. Yeah. Let's see on the code how it works. So open with the terminal, then let's see how it works. So over here, just say .NET run on my caps. Yeah, so it queries like literally everything and then gives you on the console. So let's see what we have on GitHub, and then be able to show you like all the things that we've been able to be been doing on GitHub. So it's available in this series known as the C# series over here. So meanwhile, if there's somebody who has a question, especially about the query, the link, it will be good for you to share at the moment. So for instance, today we've learned something on LINQ. You can just see that thing that we've learned about. So just open that folder and you can find all the code that you've written inside it. So like literally last week we were talking about something OOP. So let me check if we have one. So it's here. So we have most of the things that we covered. I think we never covered polymorphism and what, and most of this. So we covered inheritance. So maybe let me show you how you do polymorphism and abstraction just on a source code. It will just take some few minutes to just show that. But if somebody has a question meanwhile about the link, you can be able to just unmute or ask a question through the chat. Or if it's something you never understood, then I can show you about polymorphism and abstraction. Let me give a minute for that. Okay. Seems there's no question about that. Let me find where he wrote the solution on polymorphism, and then I just get you started on how polymorphism works. Or somebody can try out what is polymorphism in object-oriented programming, because from Dennis' session last week, we were able to talk about the 4 pillars, and he was able to demonstrate them. Somebody has, or maybe like what polymorphism is. It can be well if you try it out. Okay, it's okay. Hand is up, Michael.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Maybe I can try with my own understanding and how, for example, I've used polymorphism, but in C++
Okay.
though. It's, for example, where if I define a class and then in the class, for example, it has a method. Let's say, sorry for the noise, somebody is being dropped. For example, in the class, there's a method, and then let's say the method is walk, and then the parameter is, for example, a certain animal, like the argument is like, for example, a dog. And then, assuming this is me, and this is a class of a person, and then I want to define another class that inherits the person, and I want to now create another method that is walk, but not dog, and maybe let's say cat because this is my neighbor. So polymorphism is how I use it, is how I can make this function, this method, have different parameters or arguments, but still the same functionality. Like it can appear in many forms, changing just the part that I want it to change, necessary to how I want to use the code.
Yeah, exactly. That is true. And from illustration, I think I can still remember from a session that Omolo just took us some 2 weeks ago. He was trying to use interfaces and generics and then come up with polymorphism whereby all animals were making noise. Or what was it? There's something that he was doing actually. Then, so let me just use the same illustration of whatever he told us. So because it was a good illustration, but now he was using interfaces. So let's try and write that using a class. So for that, so thank you so much, Michael. Do you always have a LinkedIn Premium?
Pardon? Do I always have a?
LinkedIn Premium.
No. No, I don't have a
Okay,
LinkedIn.
I will give you that as an appreciation of answering the question.
Thank you.
Right. So I'm just going to create a new folder here. Name it, okay, it should be a folder. Let me just name it OOP again. Then inside the OOP, just create it and name it a console app. So the console app should, let me call it now what? Polymorphism. The spelling of polymorphism, polymorphism. I think that is it. Not is good in English, but that is, I think that is it. So it has created that. Inside that we have the program.cs, and that's where we shall be writing the source code inside here. So I'll just create the same thing that our Molo did, but he did with the interfaces. So I'll just give an access of public class. So last week we talked about the access modifiers. So I can say public class animal, and then at this point I can say I want to create an animal class that's okay. I'll create a method inside this class of animal that will be overridden by other classes. So that's actually what polymorphism is. So I say public virtual. So I don't know in Java how do you say it, because it's different in Java. So let's say animal speaks, or okay, animals don't speak. Maybe makes sound. So I can say, okay, I don't know how it's written in Java. Let's say, let me just ask it in Java. Virtual is replaced by abstract. So I think that's how it's always written in Java, but now in C#, instead of saying abstract, you just mention that it's virtual. That can be modified by other classes later on. So after defining this class of animal, so another class will begin. So you can assume this was another file of other implementation of things, but now at this point, you can have another class of a dog, and dog is what is implementing the animal. So it's trying to get some of the methods that are available in the animal class and then use it as a dog. So what happens is write the public override the void. So a dog can make a noise or make sound. Make sound is better. So once you write this, you say a dog barks at this point. So why am I getting this? So it's not suitable, not found to override. Okay, why am I not able to override that? Let me check this. The animal. Okay, the animal could just speak. Okay, at this point, then this should be the same thing. So I made a mistake. So I just copy this and ensure that the animal, even the animal itself, is can make the sound. So literally, what the mistake I did is that I'm trying to override something that does not exist, because you could see make this sound is something that. So let me just drink some water. Okay. Been just talking the entire day. Okay, so make sound is not available in the other class, so that's why you cannot override it. So you must override something that exists. So this make sound is a method available in the class of animal. Okay, and the dog barks. That's the sound that the dog does, or you can poof poof barks. Let me add that. Let me just add the sound that the dog does. Not boo boo, it should be woof woof. Nice. So then you can have another class of a cat. I think this should be right. So let me don't type anything. So I can say public class cat also implements or it inherits from the cat the animal. So you override the method that was given by the animal and just change the implementation. So this is actually where polymorphism is. So just use the same method that it is used, but you're overriding it by giving a new implementation. So these are different implementation over here. So and this is always an example that's given in most of the programs. Then the last thing is just writing a program class static program. Then in here, just give that. I can see this step. Public. Why am I writing that? So this is public static void main. Okay. So I want to implement that by saying that I have the animal, which is a class, name it an animal variable and say this is a new animal and calling it or invoking it. Okay, let me see what's wrong with this. So this is, oh, this is class or public class itself. Public class. Sorry for that. So I can say animal is equals to new animal. So I'm trying to create or instantiate my variable naming. And then the other thing that I can do is, let's say animal does what? Animal dot make sound. So I'm trying to call this method or invoking this method from the animal. So I'm going to do the same thing in the dog. So, okay, you can say it as how it was said, but you can be more explicit by saying dog or dog is equals to new what dog, and then you invoke it. So at this point, you just say dog dot make sound, and then the last thing is the cat, then the cat dot make sound. So let's see how is this implemented through code. So let me open with polymorphism. So C# is, or I can say all programming languages are literally almost the same, because you will find the same source code can be used in different languages, just that the syntax will change. So if I check ls, I'm on the code, so I can say .NET run. So, or we can just try this out using the F5, control F5 this time around. So just select the what should be running the code is C#. Okay, why is it telling me that? So wait a minute. So control F5. Let's try this option. And then, okay, inside the collections, let's see how it does. It's good to try alternatives of this. However, it always takes some time. That's why I always just run .NET run and then get it. So the build is successful. Let's wait for the results. Here it is. No. What am I running? Okay, I select the wrong project. So that's why even I always don't like this. It's because I have several projects inside, so it had to to run another code. Let me just get in also again. So I'm sorry for that. So trying something new always fumbles your work. So ls, so inside polymorphism is .NET. So I think debugging, then you should always debug when you are inside your project. But the problem is that I'm inside different projects. So you could see the dog makes a sound, then the animal makes sound, the dog barks, and then the cat meows. So that's it about polymorphism. So something else we can just touch on lastly is abstraction. So these are the things that they always ask in classes, and some people always find it hard to explain. So an abstraction, so this is a concept that you always hide the details or implementation of some things, but just let the user get to see what it is important for them to see. And uh, you might you might think that is encapsulation. So encapsulation is just wrapping things like variables and methods so that it cannot be available or manipulated elsewhere. But abstraction is hiding the actual implementation. Let's see how that is done. Then we wind up. I think we've covered a lot. So I'll just create a new project, console project. Let me name this abstraction. Abstraction. Okay. Spellings. Abstraction. Things like this. Yeah. So that's the name of the project in the default. I'm creating the project. So this is it. So if I want to create the abstractions, let me just close these other files and close and minimize everything so that it can be visible to all. So for this, what will we use? Let me use a shape and then try to calculate areas, or yeah, let's just mess up and calculating areas of each. Then we see how it works while abstracting data. Okay, so I'm going to create a public class. Okay, at this point you have to make it abstract. Class and then program. Not program, but shape. So a shape can have abstract methods. So I can say I want one that gets the area along. Cannot be doing the perimeter, it will take time to do all the math. So I can say getting the area, so that we just give value so that it can calculate our area for us. So you can say you have public, so class, let's say the circle is a new shape that we want. So it inherits from the shape class. Then just now implement like what other things a circle has is public, double, just like how Copilot is saying. So we're just getting and setting it. So from the constructors. So this will help do that. What else? Okay, now we want to, let's create that constructor that can help us to, because once you want to implement this or getting area, you have to have the constructor. So I'll say public. Now this should be the circle itself, which was the double. Let me name it radius. So and this time assign this way. Okay, let me see what's wrong with this. Declare, okay, declare types in namespaces. Circle does not. Circle does not implement inherited abstract class get area. This is something new, this weird. Don't know what's happening. Let me check it. So this is an abstract class known as shape. It has one abstract method known as get area. And this implements from the shape. Okay, let me see the problem once again. So circle does not implement inherited abstract member get area. Okay. And I get to the issue. It's because I'm inheriting the shape, but I haven't used this method. So sometimes these codes can be tricky. So there's no problem. So we haven't encountered much error. So I'm just going to proceed to implement whatever it wants me to do. So this point I'll say public override. Now the double get area. So get area. Okay, we're not going to throw anything. So to get an area of a circle, we just return it's a math.py or yeah, let's try that. Rather than say 3.142 times area times area, you can see is this method known as so accessing the class math. And when you read about math, it says provide a constant static method. So the math contains some methods that are static, like for example, dot pi. So pi is 3.142. Then times radius times radius. So I hope I was not able to confuse somebody with how I was able to come up with this. So what happens is that I don't want everybody to have access to my radius. They will only have access to radius through this constructor. So like for instance, this circle is expecting somebody to give a radius, but in small letter, the small letter radius. So if you give me that radius from your value, I'm going to assign it to radius, which is this one. So you're trying to do things in a way that a user cannot always access the actual variable. So that's something cool. That's known as abstracting data so that cannot be available to users to manipulate them directly. So something else you can do the same thing with rectangle. So let me find if I can find the code of rectangle because it's actually the same thing. So I'm copying that, then pasting. So public class rectangle. So it inherits from the shape that we set at that time. But now we have new things. We have the width and the length because we now want to define like what happens with it. So public rectangle. So this is the constructor. So the constructor will take in the width and the length, but they're not the same thing because these are the uppercase ones. So once a user gives me their details, I can be able to reassign them because whatever length they give me, I just reassign them the actual property. Then you must do this. So if you fail to do this, you get an error here. You cannot implement something that's abstract without implementing them by getting this error because the abstract class implemented like the implementation of get area. So how do you get the area? Just get the length and the width that the user has given us and then calculate it with that. So the last part is the class or public class program. And then let's see. So at this point, you just have to say public static void. These things are public static void. So at this point, so you have to let's start with the shape. So the shape circle that we have, so it's a variable naming, but I have to say new circle. But say the circle has a radius of 7 or 5, let me give it a 7. Then I can be able to console.log that. So let me have them consoled. So let me just bring this code here, the last one here. So console.log the area of that. So what happens is saying this circle dot get area. So you can be able to get this method available for it because it was implemented in the classes. So let's see how it is done. Then we end there. That is abstraction. Run integrated terminal. So I can say .NET run. So I can say abstraction in object-oriented programming is similar to interfaces. It's just that interfaces does not have constructors, but you saw this at this point we were able to create the constructors. Yeah. So another thing that you should notice that this abstract class over here, you can be able to instantiate it over here, but you cannot implement it. You cannot come and say that, okay, like the area or getting area should be, let's say, calculation of something over here. You cannot implement it. So it's similar to an interface, but only that an interface. So also an interface is that it just gives you the boilerplate, but does not implement it. But this abstract class or abstract method is being implemented by the circle and the rectangle. And you can see here the circle area is 153 and the rectangular area is 150. So that is it. So I hope we've been able to touch several things. And thank you so much for joining the session. So if there's anyone who has a question or a clarification that you want, feel free to ask that question. Anyone has a question? Yes, Michael, your hand is up. We can go on.
Sorry, I was not in when you were starting. When you were connecting to the database, were you connecting online or was it just local?
Okay, I was connected to local lists. So we've not reached the part whereby you connect to an actual database. So we shall be connecting to the database, especially I think now in the coming sessions, we shall now have one when you're connecting to a DB, but the one that we were connecting to, if I can go back here, let's say one that was about filter. So you can see like I was giving my in-memory data. So this is not a data into the database, but it just to resemble that. So I will be able to show you how to connect to databases in the coming sessions. I think it will be, I think after next week. So because this series will just run for November alone, like the last month is November, because majority of us now will now embark to preparing for the main examinations of the semester. So it will be good also that as the semester ends, we also give ourselves the humble time to prepare for the classes. So I hope, Michael, you've gotten it. Yeah, okay. So thank you so much for attending. So, okay, we're sharing something without displaying, but I hope Michael was able to understand. Sorry for that. I never knew it stopped sharing. So let me just show you the parts because you see you are not around. It is in here. The list that I was telling you is in here. Yeah. So this is the list that I was mentioning about. So this is the in-memory list. So and it is not a permanent storage. So I also use the same list for the different illustrations. Yeah. So until then, see you next week, same time. Okay, and I hope you are doing the certification. Most of us, you promised me to do the certification in in November. This is the last, yeah, and it is always available, by the way. So continue doing the certification, and yeah, until then, let's see you. Bye bye.